My mother handed my sister a check for $200,000 on Christmas morning. The paper was crisp, the ink still fresh, tucked inside a red envelope with a golden bow. Victoria held it up to the light like it was a holy relic, tears streaming down her face. "For your new house, sweetheart," Mom said, pulling her into a hug. "You deserve a fresh start." Dad stood behind them, beaming, his hand on Victoria's shoulder. Then Mom turned to me, reached into her pocket, pulled out a plastic rectangle, a $50 gift card to Target. She pressed it into my palm with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "For you, Nicole. You're the strong one. You don't need much." I looked at that gift card, looked at my sister's check, looked at my parents who had already turned back to Victoria, cooing over house listings on her phone. I said nothing, smiled, slipped the gift card into my pocket. They had no idea what was coming. That was 3 years ago. Last Tuesday, my phone rang at 11 p.m. My father's number. I almost didn't answer. When I did, I heard my mother crying in the background. "Nicole," Dad said, his voice cracking. "We're in trouble. The bank, they're foreclosing. We need $200,000 or we lose the house. Victoria said she can't help. You're our only hope." I let the silence stretch. Felt the weight of 21 years of being the strong one, the one who didn't need anything, the one who could handle it. "You're the strong ones," I said. "Figure it out." I hung up. The silence on my end lasted about 3 seconds before my phone exploded with calls and texts. I turned it off, poured myself a glass of wine, and watched the snow fall outside my window. If you've ever been the family member who is expected to need nothing while watching others get everything, this story is for you. But this moment didn't come out of nowhere. It started when I was 7. Victoria was 11 when our grandmother died and left each grandchild $5,000. Equal, fair. Except when we got home, Mom sat me down at the kitchen table. "Sweetheart, Victoria needs braces. They cost $4,000. Your teeth are perfect. So we're going to use your inheritance money for her braces. Okay? You're such a strong girl." I was 7. I nodded because that's what strong girls did. Victoria got her braces. I got nothing. When I was 12, Victoria wanted a car. Dad bought her a Honda Civic for $8,000. 4 years later, when I turned 16, I asked about a car. Mom laughed. "We can't afford that. Victoria's in college." I worked every weekend for 2 years. Bought myself a rusted Toyota for $2,300. Nobody celebrated. Victoria borrowed it twice, returned it with an empty tank both times. College was the same story. Victoria went to a private university, $42,000 a year for 4 years. $168,000. I got a state school and a firm handshake. "You're so independent, Nicole." I figured it out. Scholarships, part-time jobs, student loans. Graduated with a degree in accounting and $37,000 in debt. Victoria graduated debt-free. Victoria's engagement to Bradley came next. Bradley drove a BMW, worked in finance, talked about himself in third person. The engagement party cost $15,000. The wedding cost $80,000. Mom and Dad paid for everything. When I started dating Marcus, a software engineer I'd met at work, nobody asked about engagement parties. We eloped in Vermont. $400. Nobody was there. "That's so you," Victoria said when I showed her photos. "So simple." By the time I was 25, I'd stopped counting the disparity. Or I thought I had. The numbers lived somewhere in the back of my mind, a running tally I tried not to look at. Victoria, roughly $350,000 in direct financial support over 18 years. Nicole. Roughly 8,000 if you counted the 5,000 grandma left me that paid for Victoria's braces, plus the 3,000 mom slipped me when I graduated college with a note that said, "Proud of you." But here's the thing about being the strong one. They don't see what you do in the dark. They don't know about the sacrifices you make because you never ask for credit. And sometimes you don't even realize what you're doing until someone points it out. I was 23 when mom was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, the aggressive kind. Medication, monitoring equipment, specialist appointments, $800 a month, minimum. I found out because I overheard mom crying to dad. "We can't afford this, Robert. Not with Victoria's wedding coming up." I didn't say anything. That night I set up an automatic payment from my account to the pharmacy, anonymously. $800 a month for 5 years, $48,000. Nobody knew. Marcus was the only one who found out. 6 months after we got married, he saw the payments in our joint account. I told him everything. "Your parents gave your sister $200,000 for a house," he said, "and you're secretly paying for your mother's medication?" I shrugged. She's still my mom. The first escalation happened at Mom's 60th birthday party. Victoria hosted it at her new house, the one my parents had funded. 4 bedrooms, marble countertops, a Sub-Zero refrigerator. The house was beautiful. It was also mortgaged to the hilt because Bradley had taken out a home equity line of credit for investment opportunities. Victoria cornered me in her kitchen. "I need you to split the cost of Mom and Dad's anniversary party. $12,000, $6,000 each." "I can't afford $6,000 for a party." "You're always so dramatic about money." Her face shifted, that look that said I was being difficult. "Fine. I'll pay 7. You pay 5. "I can't afford 5,000 either." "Then I'll just tell Mom and Dad that you didn't want to contribute." At dinner, she announced the party. "Nicole and I are splitting the cost. Aren't we, Nicole?" Every eye turned to me. I thought about the $800 leaving my account in 3 days for Mom's medication. "Sure," I heard myself say. "I paid 6,000. Victoria paid 4 and took credit for everything." Have you ever smiled through something you couldn't afford because the alternative was being called selfish? Have you ever watched someone else get praised for your sacrifice? Keep listening. The first real twist came 3 months later. Victoria called. "Bradley left me, took the BMW, took our joint savings. Turns out those investment opportunities were gambling debts." I went to her house, sat in her beautiful kitchen while she cried, and my parents promised everything would be okay. At some point, Mom turned to me. "Can you help Victoria with her bills this month?" "Just 5,000. "For the mortgage?" $5,000. Just. Like it was nothing. "I'll see what I can do." I gave Victoria 3,000. All I could spare. She said, "I thought you said you could do 5. That night, I started a spreadsheet. Family financial history. By 2 a.m., the total disparity was $423,000 over 21 years, plus the $48,000 I'd spent on Mom's medication. I added it at the bottom. Paid by Nicole. Nobody knows. The trigger happened that Christmas. We were at my parents' house. Victoria was there with her new boyfriend Grant, a real estate developer even more arrogant than Bradley. Nobody asked about my promotion to senior accountant. Nobody mentioned that Marcus had just sold his first app for a mid-6-figure sum. After dinner, Dad pulled out his checkbook. "Victoria, honey, things have been tough. We want to help." He handed her a check. $50,000. To the daughter who had already received $200,000 for a house she was about to lose. Then Mom turned to me, handed me an envelope, a $50 gift card to a home goods store. "For your little apartment? I know you like practical things." I looked at the gift card, at my sister's check. Something shifted inside me. Not anger, Clarity. Thank you. This is very thoughtful. In the car, Marcus said, "That was the last time you sit there and take that." He was right. Something had broken. Or healed. Either way, I was done being the strong one. I started planning, talked to a therapist, a financial advisor, gathered documentation, every receipt, every bank statement, every record. The second twist came 18 months later. Victoria called crying. Grant left, and I'm pregnant. She was broke, living on depleted savings. Mom and Dad said they'd help, but they're stretched thin. I knew the details. I'd seen the numbers when I helped Dad with his taxes. They'd taken out a home equity loan of $150,000. Most had gone to Victoria. Their retirement funds were decimated. Victoria said, "You're so lucky, Nicole. You have Marcus. Your stable job. You don't know what it's like to struggle." "You're right," I said. "I don't know anything about struggle." She didn't hear the ice in my voice. The dark point came 3 months before the phone call. Mom's diabetes had gotten worse. New medication, $1,200 a month, up from $800, on top of everything else. That night, I sat in my office and cried. The ugly kind. 21 years of being strong finally breaking through. Marcus found me, held me. "I can't do this anymore," I said. "You don't have to. She's my mother. If I stop paying, she could die. If you keep paying, you'll die. Maybe not physically. But everything that makes you you will disappear into their vacuum. What do I do? You stop being the strong one. Let them see what happens when the person they took for granted stops giving." 1 month later, I canceled the automatic payments, removed myself as the payment contact, let the account revert to my parents' insurance. The phone call came on a snowy Tuesday night. Dad's voice, broken and desperate. The foreclosure notice. The $200,000 they needed. Victoria couldn't help because Victoria was broke, living on savings that had run out, pregnant with a baby whose father had vanished. "Nicole," Dad said, "you're our only hope. You're the strong one. You can handle this." I listened to my mother crying in the background. Thought about 21 years of being strong, of being the one who didn't need, of paying $800, then $1,200 a month so my mother could live while she gave my sister $200,000 for a house. "You're the strong ones," I said. "Figure it out." I hung up. The confrontation happened 3 days later. They showed up at my apartment. All of them. Mom, Dad, Victoria, even Victoria's swollen belly like a prop designed to make me feel guilty. They filed in without being invited, settling onto my couch like they owned the place. "How could you?" Mom started before she even sat down. "We're family. We're about to lose everything." "I know," I said. I was calm. I'd practiced this. "Sit down. I have something to show you." They sat. Marcus stood behind me, his hand on my shoulder. I opened my laptop, pulled up the spreadsheet. "This is a record of every dollar you've given Victoria over the past 21 years, starting with my inheritance from Grandma, which paid for her braces. Continuing through college, through her wedding, through her house down payment, through every bailout after every failed relationship. The total is $423,000 in direct financial support." Silence. Dad shifted in his seat. Mom's face was frozen. "This is a record of every dollar you've given me. The total is $8,000. $3,000 at graduation, $5,000 that was supposed to be mine, but went to Victoria's orthodontics." More silence. "That's not fair," Victoria said, her voice high and defensive. "You didn't need as much. You were always fine. You had Marcus. You had your career. I was struggling. I worked 3 jobs through college while you went to parties. I paid off $37,000 in student loans while you traveled Europe on Dad's credit card. I've never asked you for anything. Not once in 21 years. See? Mom said. And I could hear the relief in her voice, like she'd found her argument. You're the strong one. You've always been the strong one. That's not a bad thing, Nicole. It's a compliment. I have one more thing to show you. I pulled up the bank statements, the pharmacy payments, 5 years of records, $800 a month becoming $1,200, $48,000 total, laid out in neat columns on the screen. What is this? Dad asked, squinting at the screen. His reading glasses were in his shirt pocket, but he didn't reach for them. This is the record of every payment I've made for Mom's diabetes medication since she was diagnosed. Anonymously, through the pharmacy's patient assistance program, for 5 years. The room went dead silent. I could hear the tick of the clock on the wall, the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, Victoria's sharp intake of breath. Mom's face shifted through confusion, disbelief, then something that looked almost like horror. Her hand went to her chest, over her heart. That was you? Every month. For 5 years. $800 a month. Then $1,200 when your condition worsened. While you gave Victoria $200,000 for a house. While you paid for her wedding. While you gave her $50,000 more last Christmas. I was the one keeping you alive. Victoria opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. For once in her life, she had nothing to say. I stopped the payment 6 weeks ago. I continued. You should have gotten a notice from the pharmacy. They've been calling you. You haven't answered because you thought it was spam. Mom looked at Dad. Dad looked at the floor. His shoulders had collapsed inward like a puppet with cut strings. We thought it was some kind of program. Charity. Government assistance. It was charity, I said. From me. The daughter you gave a $50 gift card because I was the strong one who didn't need anything. The daughter you never called unless you needed something. The daughter who watched you pour hundreds of thousands of dollars into Victoria while you told me I was so independent, so capable, so fine, on my own. The silence stretched. Marcus's hand squeezed my shoulder. Warm, steady, reminding me I wasn't alone. You never said anything, Dad finally managed. His voice was hoarse. You never told us? Would it have mattered? Would you have stopped giving everything to Victoria if you knew I was spending my savings on Mom's insulin? Or would you have just expected me to keep doing both? Because I'm the strong one? Because I can handle it? Because that's what I do? Nobody answered. That was answer enough. Nicole. Mom's voice was small, barely above a whisper. Then it hardened. You've never done anything for this family. I laughed. Actually laughed. A sound that surprised even me. I'm sorry, what? You never call. You never visit. You eloped without inviting us. You've always held yourself apart, like you're better than us. Victoria is the one who shows up. Victoria is the one who cares. Victoria is the one who needs us. I stared at my mother. At this woman I had kept alive for 5 years, who had just told me I'd never done anything for the family. The audacity of it was almost impressive. Marcus, I said quietly, can you hand me the folder? He handed me a manila folder from the side table. Inside were printouts. Every bank statement, every payment confirmation, every receipt, every record of the $48,000 I had spent on my mother's health care while being treated like an afterthought. I placed the folder in front of my mother. These are receipts, printed copies of every transaction, for everything I've done for this family that you chose not to see. Every month for 5 years, I chose to keep you alive instead of saving for a house, instead of paying off my loans faster, instead of having a child of my own. Because you were my mother and I loved you even when you couldn't be bothered to love me back. Mom stared at the papers. Her hands were shaking, pages scattered across her lap. You want to know why I never said anything? Because I knew. I knew that even if I did, you would find a way to make it about Victoria. You would find a way to explain why she deserved more, why she needed more, why I was the strong one who could handle being invisible. And look at you. That's exactly what you're doing right now. I closed the laptop. I was the strong one. You're right about that. But strong doesn't mean infinite. Strong doesn't mean I don't have limits. And I've reached mine. Victoria stood up, her hand on her belly. This is ridiculous. You're making this about money when it's about family. Family helps each other? It's always been about money, Victoria. You just never had to notice because you were always on the receiving end. Family helps each other. You're right. So where were you for 21 years while I helped and you took? That's not fair. Neither was watching you get $200,000 while I got a gift card. Neither was paying $3,000 I couldn't afford when your husband left. Neither was any of it. Fair isn't something this family has ever offered me. Dad cleared his throat. Nicole, we can talk about this. Work something out. Maybe you can help us now, and we'll pay you back. When we get back on our feet. I looked at my father. At this man who had built a life where one daughter was precious and one was convenient. Who had never once asked about my life, my work, my dreams, my struggles. No, I said. I'm done being the strong one. I'm done being the one who doesn't need anything. I'm done subsidizing your favoritism while pretending it doesn't exist. So you're just going to let us lose the house? Mom's voice was rising, cracking. After everything we've done for you? What have you done for me, Mom? Specifically, I'd love to hear one thing. She opened her mouth, closed it. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for an answer that wasn't there. That's what I thought. I stood up. Marcus stood with me. It's time for you to leave. I have nothing else to say. They left. Victoria crying. Mom clutching the folder of receipts like she didn't know what to do with it. Dad looking back at me as he walked through the door, his face a mixture of shock and something that might have been shame. Maybe he finally saw me. Maybe it was too late for that to matter. That was 2 years ago. My parents lost the house. The bank foreclosed after they couldn't make 3 months of payments. They moved in with Victoria, who was living in a 2-bedroom apartment with a newborn and a job at a retail store. The beautiful house with the granite countertops and the Sub-Zero refrigerator was long gone. Sold in the divorce settlement. Bradley got half. Victoria got debt. I don't speak to them anymore. Not because I hate them, because I finally understood that some relationships cost more than they're worth. Some people will never see you no matter how much you give, and the only person who can decide you're worth seeing is yourself. Marcus and I bought a house last year. 3 bedrooms. A yard for the dog we adopted. Room for the future we're building. I paid off my student loans. He sold another app. We're doing fine. Better than fine. Mom's diabetes is managed by my parents' insurance now. The copays are hard for them, I'm sure. But they figured it out. Because that's what strong people do. That's what they told me my whole life. Turns out they were right. Victoria reached out once, a text that said, "I hope you're happy destroying this family." I blocked her number. Didn't feel anything. Maybe that's the real victory. Not revenge, just indifference. The absence of caring what they think. My therapist says I'm making progress. Learning to set boundaries without guilt. Learning that being strong doesn't mean being a doormat. Learning that the people who call you strong are often the same ones who make you need to be. I keep that spreadsheet still. Updated it once more after I stopped paying for Mom's medication. The final tally of everything I gave versus everything I received. Sometimes I look at it when I'm doubting myself, when I'm wondering if I was too harsh, too cold, too unforgiving. Then I remember that gift card. $50. You're the strong one. You don't need much. They were right. I don't need much. I don't need them. And that's the most liberating realization of my entire life. If you've ever been the strong one in your family, this is for you. If you've ever been the one who gave everything while watching others receive everything, this is for you. If you've ever stood up for yourself and been called selfish by the people who never gave you anything to be selfish about, this is for you. Being strong doesn't mean accepting less. It means knowing your worth and refusing to settle for people who don't see it. It means walking away from tables where you were never really welcome. It means building your own table and inviting only the people who deserve to sit there. Tell me in the comments, have you ever been the strong one who was expected to need nothing? Did you ever stop giving to people who only knew how to take? I read every story. And if you want more stories about people who finally stopped being strong for everyone else and started being strong for themselves, subscribe. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your family is leave them to their own strength. They might surprise you, or they might prove exactly what you always knew. Either way, it won't be your problem anymore.